This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. With more properties for sale than anywhere else, we make it easier.
Thanks for being with us here on Business Now. Let's whip around the nation and look at the housing markets over the weekend. And across Australia, the auction clearance rate was 77%, which is pretty good, from 1,078 auctions. That's according to REA Group. Sydney's clearance rate, almost 79% from 280 auctions. On top, there was an extra 1,336 private sales. Melbourne had 510 auctions. It was the busiest capital city. The clearance rate, 78%, plus 1,116 properties were sold privately. Brisbane had 46 auctions. The clearance rate here, as always, lower at 52%, but there were also another 1,176 homes sold privately. In South Australia, the clearance rate was strong, as it has been in recent weeks. Almost 88% from 49 auctions, 282 properties were sold through private treaty. And lastly, Canberra, the clearance rate 80.8% from 52 auctions, plus another 66 homes sold privately. To work out the state of the housing market, Angus Moore, economist from REA Group, joins me now. Angus, as always, thanks for your time. I want to take it from where we normally are on the demand side, people wanting to buy, to the supply side. The construction industry's got troubles. Metricon saved, apparently a deal with the Commonwealth Bank, Australia's largest home builder. That supply side is pretty important, because if that starts to slow down, to a certain extent, that props up the price of existing properties.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the supply side is fundamental to property, and we often don't talk about it as much because, the demand side is a lot more kind of tangible to people because they know when they go and bid what they're seeing, whereas supply kind of happens in the background. On supply, I think there's kind of two things we should talk about. One's the sort of supply of existing dwellings. So that is people selling their homes and what's coming to market.
So let me think about that. So existing dwellings, this is a person who's sitting there, got an investment property and says, I know the market's been hot, it's now coming off as rates rise. Do I put that property on the market right now, or do I hang on to it and just ride the cycle out? That's the key.
Exactly. So on the existing side, we've seen a lot of investors sell out over the past couple of years, which has added a bit of supply. We've also in the past 6 months seen a lot of vendors come to market. Now, of course, many of those are subsequently buying because, once you sell your home, you need somewhere else to live.
Yeah.
But we have seen a lot more supply, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne. So listings on realestate.com.au are kind of back to decade average in Sydney and Melbourne, which is a radically different story from where we were during the pandemic.
Yes.
Other cities are still a bit lower. So that's helping give buyers a bit more choice in existing dwellings.
So that's where that clearance rate can be off a little bit from where it was up near 90%. They're coming down into the 80% now because there's simply more supply out there. There's more choice. People can say, well, I didn't get that one. I can go and have a look at a different one.
Precisely. You've got more choices. You don't have to make as quick decisions. You'll see a few more auctions with lower clearance rates.
Yeah. Then you've got the other side, which is the builders and developers. And they've now got to make a choice because the cost of building is rising, and guaranteeing whether you can actually get it built for the price that you wanted. That's another fundamental problem when it comes to that other side, because you don't actually know what the price is, so you don't quite know what to sell the property for if you're thinking about doing a development.
Yeah, I mean, the physical supply side is obviously absolutely key to the long run of housing markets. Building more homes will make them more affordable in the long run, and arguably for the last couple decades we haven't built enough homes, and that's why it's so expensive. What we're seeing in the construction industry at the moment is quite a dichotomy. On the one hand, we've got more detached homes under construction at the moment than we ever have before. Part of that's been driven by home builder, which obviously provided a strong impetus to building homes. Part of it's kind of a natural reaction to low interest rates. One of the things that the RBA, or one of the channels of monetary policy of low interest rates, is stimulating building activity. So we've got this incredible pipeline of new homes. At the same time, builders are really struggling because prices have gone up an eye-watering sum.
And they've entered fixed price contracts, so they've got to absorb some of those costs.
Exactly right. The ABS tracks construction costs. So in the producer price index, the cost of inputs to constructing a new home is up 15% in the past year. It's the fastest we've seen since they started keeping records in the mid-90s. So putting a lot of pressure on builders.
And so that then ultimately plays out into property values and whether people can afford to pay that price or are willing to pay that price.
Right, exactly. So we've kind of got two factors going on in the price of new dwellings at the moment, which is one, the cost of supplying them's gone up 15% or even more potentially, because that's not including labour costs. On the flip side, we've got interest rates rising, which puts downward pressure on prices because it reduces how much people can borrow. So it's a really interesting tension in the market at the moment.
It's going to be fascinating. We'll keep a little eye on this over the coming weeks and just watch this data, because this could be the key as to whether house prices either fall more rapidly or whether there's a floor put under them. Angus Moore from REA Group, always good to have in the program.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ross.